I never thought my life would turn into something worth writing about, much less sharing with strangers. But sometimes betrayal cuts so deep the only way to survive it is to turn it into a story. Maybe if I tell it, I can finally put it behind me. Up until last year, I thought I was in a strong, steady relationship with my boyfriend Vincent, also 26. We had been together since college, 4 years of shared dreams, late night study sessions, and whispered promises about the future. He was studying communications when we first met while I was finishing my business degree. After graduation, Vincent changed paths. He applied for a 2 year accelerated nursing program, convinced it was his true calling. I didn't hesitate to support him. I took a job as a warehouse supervisor. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. While Vincent buried himself in textbooks I carried us, rent, groceries, gas, tuition, top ups, even his endless stack of nursing manuals, I paid for them all. I told myself it was temporary. Love meant sacrifice, right? And when he finally graduated, I'd be by his side, proud and ready for the next chapter. I even daydreamed about proposing to him after his pinning ceremony. Those years weren't easy. There were nights I came home bone tired, hands blistered from inventory runs, only to find Vincent asleep at his desk, highlighters scattered across medical diagrams. I'd tuck a blanket around his shoulders and think, it's worth it. He'll be a nurse soon, and we'll build a future together. But 8 months before everything collapsed, Vincent discovered TikTok. At first, I thought it was harmless. Who didn't like a silly dance video after hours of studying? He'd laugh at goofy trends, experiment with filters, lip sync to pop songs. I'd even hold the phone sometimes while he filmed. It seemed like a stress relief for him. Then his content started to shift. One night in September, I came home from work and dropped my keys on the counter, exhausted. Vincent was in the living room with the ring light on, holding up two outfits. One was my worn gray hoodie and loose sweatpants, the other a tight black dress I'd never seen before. Hey, what's this for? I asked, half smiling, though a pit formed in my stomach. It's a trend, he said, quickly, barely glancing at me. My girlfriend style versus nursing school goals. Everyone's doing it. I watched him film himself. First, he held my hoodie at arm's length, scrunching his nose in disgust. Then he slipped into the sleek dress, flashing a wide grin. He added text over the hoodie clip. When your girl looks like she's given up on life. Something twisted inside me. Vincent, that's not personal, I forced a laugh. He was already editing, fingers flying across the screen. It's just content, Hazel. You wouldn't understand. That phrase, you wouldn't understand, hung in the air, heavier than I expected. I told myself not to overreact. He was under pressure. He needed an outlet. But the way he mocked me, not just privately, but for strangers to judge, it stung more than I let on. Over the next weeks, his videos grew sharper, meaner. POV, your girlfriend thinks Olive Garden is fine dining. Tell me your woman has no ambition without telling me your content shared. Some wrote things like, dump her, in silence, my chest tight. I wanted to confront him. I wanted to scream, do you know what I've given up for you? But every time I opened my mouth, I saw the exhaustion in his face from 12-hour clinical rotations and bit my tongue. One night, I found him scrolling through his notifications, grinning. Chloe says this is hilarious, he muttered half to himself. Chloe. That name had started popping up more and more. She was one of his classmates, loud, ambitious, always posting stories from their study groups. Except the groups often looked like just her and Vincent sprawled across couches with textbooks open, but untouched. She gets it, Vincent told me once when I asked why he spent so much time with her. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Chloe does. There it was again. You don't understand. I told myself it was just friendship, that after graduation things would settle. But sometimes late at night, while folding his laundry, I'd catch the faintest scent of perfume on his scrubs that wasn't mine. My chest would tighten, but I pushed the suspicion down, burying it under hope. By spring, the tension between us had grown into something I couldn't name, an invisible crack, spreading slowly across the walls of our relationship. I tried to patch it with patience dinners after my shifts, small notes of encouragement tucked into his bag. But each time I caught him laughing at a text from Chloe, I felt the crack widen. The foreshadowing was there, plain as day. I just refused to see it. I thought I was building us a future. Instead, I was standing on sand while the tide rushed in. And I had no idea that my upcoming birthday would be the storm that finally swept everything away. If the first TikToks were a slap, the next ones felt like knives. Vincent discovered a rhythm. Mock me, exaggerate it. Let strangers cheer him on. It wasn't just playful teasing anymore, it was ridicule packaged as entertainment. I remember one video in particular. He filmed himself sitting at our dining table, rolling his eyes dramatically, while text appeared. POV, your girlfriend thinks Olive Garden is fine dining. The clip cut to Chloe giggling behind the camera, zooming in on his fake grimace. Vincent leaned close to the lens, whispering, "Some people just settle." I wasn't tagged, but everyone knew. Our friends followed him, some coworkers too. The next morning at the warehouse, a colleague smirked and asked, "So Hazel, how was Olive Garden last night?" I forced a laugh, but my insides crumbled. At home, I confronted him tentatively. "Vincent, these videos, they make me look like a joke. Do you realize that?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "Relax. It's content. People like authenticity. They want drama humor. You wouldn't understand." That phrase again. You wouldn't understand. Like a wedge between us, hammering deeper each time. Chloe became a regular character in his stories. Study nights where her laugh echoed in the background. Group projects where only she appeared in the frame. Selfies with Vincent captioned "Grind Partners." Star Student Energy or Future Nurse of the Year. Compliments he never spared for me. At first, I convinced myself I was imagining things. Vincent had always been friendly, maybe too friendly, but he wasn't disloyal. He couldn't be. Not after everything I'd done for him. Not after the nights I stayed late at the warehouse just to pay for his textbooks. But then came the nights he didn't come home. One Tuesday, he told me he had a late study session. Midnight passed. 1 a.m. ticked by. At 2:17, the door finally creaked open. He stumbled inside, reeking of alcohol. "I thought you were studying," I said quietly, trying not to sound accusatory. "We did study," he snapped, dropping his bag. Then we went out. God, you sound like my mom sometimes. I blinked at him, stunned. "I'm just confused. You told me you needed to focus on finals." He smirked. "Chloe gets it. She's in my program. She knows the pressure I'm under." The way he said her name like it carried some secret melody only they shared made bile rise in my throat. I wanted to scream, "I get pressure too. I work 50 hours a week to keep us afloat. I pay for the roof over your head. Who do you think makes your life possible?" But instead I swallowed the words. I told myself graduation is coming. Things will settle then. He'll remember what we are. Still doubt crawled through me. At work, I'd catch myself zoning out while scanning barcodes, hearing Chloe's laugh echo in my head. At night, when Vincent showered, I'd stare at his phone on the counter, my hands itching to check it. I never did. Maybe I was afraid of confirming what I already knew. One night, he left his phone face up on the couch while he grabbed snacks. A notification lit up the screen. A selfie from Chloe, tongue out 2 fingers in a peace sign. Caption, "Study break." My chest squeezed so tight I thought I might actually faint. When he sat back down, I forced myself to look away, acting as if I hadn't seen. The cowardice burned, but so did the silence. Our apartment became a stage for a play I no longer recognized. Vincent dressed sharper cologne, heavier energy buzzing, like he was living a double life. When I asked if he wanted dinner, he'd wave me off. "I'm not hungry." We ordered takeout at Chloe's. Even his clothes smelled different, notes of floral shampoo clinging faintly to his scrubs. At work, my manager noticed me faltering. "Everything okay at home?" he asked gently. I nodded too fast. Words caught in my throat. What could I say? That the man I built my future around was slipping through my fingers, laughing, as strangers told him to throw me away. Still, I clung to hope. Graduation was only 2 months away. Surely, once the stress lifted, we'd reset. We'd celebrate his success together, maybe even finally talk about marriage. But as spring bled into April, that hope felt more and more like trying to carry water in my hands. It leaked through, no matter how tightly I pressed my palms. The cracks were spreading, unstoppable. I should have known the storm was coming. But the truth, I never expected it to hit me on my birthday. April should have felt like a fresh start. Spring air drifting through open windows, warm sunlight spilling across the floor, the smell of lilacs in bloom. Instead, it felt like I was bracing for something I couldn't quite name. My 26th birthday landed on a Saturday, and for the first time in years, I wanted to celebrate. Nothing extravagant, just a small gathering in our apartment. Pizza, drinks, laughter. A night to remind myself I wasn't just the tired warehouse supervisor paying the bills. I invited my closest friends, Nina and Carla, from work, plus my longtime buddy, Alex. Vincent insisted on inviting some of his classmates. "They're fun, they'll liven things up," he said, scrolling absently through his phone. My stomach tightened when he added Chloe to the list, but I bit my tongue. Refusing would only make me look insecure. The evening began gently enough. My friends arrived with beer and a cake decorated with lopsided lettering. Happy birthday, Hazel. We played music low, the kind you could still talk over. Someone popped open a bottle of cheap wine and laughter bubbled like it was supposed to. Then Vincent emerged from our bedroom. He looked like he was heading to a nightclub, tight shirt, sharp cologne, hair styled like he'd spent an hour perfecting it. I glanced down at my own simple dress, suddenly feeling underdressed in my own home. When Chloe arrived, all teeth and perfume, the air shifted. She brushed past me with a chirpy, happy birthday, before beelining to Vincent's side. From then on, she clung to him like a shadow. I tried to ignore it. I poured drinks, handed out slices of pizza, forced smiles. But every time I turned around there, they were her laugh too loud at his jokes, his hand brushing her arm as if forgetting I existed. By 10 p.m., the room was comfortably buzzing. Nina was recounting a story from work. Alex was locked in a debate about sports with one of Vincent's classmates. For a brief moment, I let myself breathe. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I feared. Then Vincent stood swaying slightly from the drinks and cleared his throat. His voice cut through the chatter like a blade. You know what he said loudly, glass in hand? I'm done pretending. The room stilled. My laugh caught in my throat. Pretending what I asked, careful, wary. He looked straight at me, then placed a hand on Chloe's shoulder. Pretending this is enough. He gestured around, then back at me. Hazel, you're dead weight. You're holding me back. The words rang out, each syllable a slap. Silence thickened. Carla set her drink down too hard, the glass clinking. Alex's eyes darted between us, uncertain. I could barely breathe. Vincent, I whispered. Maybe we should talk about this later. There is no later. His voice rose sharp, fueled by alcohol and adrenaline. You're content managing boxes in a warehouse forever. Chloe and I were going places. She gets me. She matches my ambition. You don't. He pulled Chloe closer, her cheeks flushed, half smiling, as if she wasn't sure how far this was supposed to go. I sat frozen on the couch, beer in hand, heart hammering so hard I thought the glass would shatter in my grip. This was the man I once pictured a future with, tearing me apart in front of everyone. Nina whispered Hazel, but trailed off helpless. Chloe murmured. Vincent, maybe. No, he cut her off, glaring at me. I can't do this anymore. I need someone who doesn't drag me down. Someone like Chloe. The final crack split through me. I stood slowly, forcing my voice steady. If that's how you feel, then go. His lips curled, satisfied. Come on, babe, he said to Chloe. The word babe, like a dagger, twisted into my ribs. He slung an arm around her, guiding her toward the door. They left, just like that. The click of the door shutting echoed louder than any slam. For a long moment, no one spoke. The music kept playing softly, absurdly cheerful against the devastation. Finally, Alex muttered, "That was messed up." Nina touched my arm. "Hazel, I'm so sorry." I swallowed hard, blinking back tears. "It's fine," I said, though my voice cracked. "Can you help me pack his stuff?" They exchanged glances, but didn't argue. We moved quietly, gathering Vincent's clothes, his textbooks, his cologne bottles, the little trinkets he'd left on shelves. Every item felt like peeling off a layer of skin, but I kept moving. By 2 a.m., his belongings sat stacked neatly by the front door. My birthday cake sat untouched on the counter, the candles never lit. I changed the locks the next morning. For the first time in years, Vincent Cruz was out of my home, out of my life, or so I thought. The morning after my birthday felt strangely quiet. No hangover, no headache, just an emptiness that rang in my ears like static. I brewed coffee in silence, staring at the boxes stacked by the door. Vincent's clothes, his nursing manuals, the cologne that used to linger on my pillow. Every piece of him now sat outside the frame of my life. At noon, I called a locksmith. By 2 o'clock, the locks were changed. I placed his boxes neatly on the porch with a note taped to the top. "Your key is in the blue box. Please don't contact me." Then I blocked his number. Blocked him on every platform. One by one, I erased him from my digital world until only his ghost remained in memory. For 10 days, there was silence. I almost believed he had accepted it. Then the text began. Not from his number, he was smarter than that, but from numbers I didn't recognize. At first, they were short. "Hazel, we need to talk. You can't ignore me forever. I made a mistake. Please." I blocked each one, my thumb tapping report spam like a reflex. The messages kept coming. Some long, some frantic. Sometimes he used a friend's phone. Sometimes it was clearly him, sometimes I wasn't sure, but always the same desperate tone. I never replied. At work, I forced myself to focus on schedules and shipping manifests. But at night alone in the apartment, I wondered, was he truly sorry? Or was he just angry that Chloe's attention wasn't enough? I got my answer sooner than expected, through whispers. Nina came over one evening, her expression guarded. I don't know if you want to hear this, she began, setting down takeout. But word is Vincent and Chloe got expelled. I froze chopsticks halfway to my mouth. Expelled. She nodded. Finals week. They were caught cheating, selling test answers to classmates. Zero tolerance policy. They're out. No degree. Nothing. For a long moment, I just stared at her. The image of Vincent, drunk on ambition, laughing with Chloe at my birthday, replayed in my head. We're going places, he had said. Now those places had vanished like smoke. 2 years gone, Nina added softly. All that money, all that work, wasted. I leaned back against the couch, heart pounding. I thought I'd feel glee, maybe vindication. But what I felt was complicated. Relief, yes. A strange, bitter justice. But also sadness, because once upon a time I'd believed in him. Later I saw it for myself online. Someone had stitched together clips of Vincent's TikToks mocking me, deadweight girlfriend. Upgrade season. Followed by the headline about his expulsion. It's flooded in. This didn't age well. Guess who the real deadweight was? Karma's undefeated. I scrolled through them with a hollow chest. He had made me the butt of a joke. Now the world was laughing at him. The text escalated. I know you've seen the news. Please, Hazel, I need you. Chloe's gone. Everyone turned their backs on me. You were always real. I'm sorry about your birthday. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. We can start over. Just respond. Each time I blocked the number. Each time the silence after felt heavier. By midsummer, his desperation grew. One message slipped through from an unfamiliar email. I lost everything. Please. You were the only one who ever believed in me. I deleted it. Then came the phone call. I hadn't expected his mother's voice, warm but trembling. Hazel, honey. Vincent's going through a hard time. He made mistakes, yes, but he still loves you. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive him? I pinched my eyes shut, fighting the urge to laugh bitterly. I'm sorry, Mrs. Johnson, but I've moved on. Please don't call me again. You two had such a beautiful relationship, she insisted. He just got lost. He's working retail now, saving to reapply. He needs support. Support. The word cut deep. I had already given him everything, years of paychecks, patience, loyalty. He had turned that gift into ridicule. That night I changed my number. And for the first time in months, the silence held. It was terrifying, but it was also the beginning of peace. I stopped scrolling through Vincent's wreckage online, stopped wondering if he'd text from another burner, stopped caring. Instead, I turned inward, to my job, my goals, my own neglected dreams. The man who once called me dead weight had become the one drowning, and I was finally learning how to breathe again. Once the noise of Vincent's desperation faded, my world became strangely quiet. For weeks, I didn't quite know what to do with it. No late-night phone buzzes from unfamiliar numbers. No motherly guilt trips begging me to reconsider. Just silence, thick, unfamiliar, and terrifying. At first, I filled it with work. The warehouse became my sanctuary. I stayed late balancing schedules, reworking supply chains, training new hires. My manager noticed. One afternoon, he called me into his office. Hazel, he said, leaning back in his chair, you've stepped up this past quarter, more than anyone else here. We're promoting you to warehouse manager. I blinked, stunned. For years, I'd been the one holding Vincent's dreams together, never daring to imagine my own advancement. And now, here it was. The raise came with more responsibility, yes, but also validation. I wasn't just dead weight. I was someone worth recognizing. The extra money helped too. By September, I signed a lease at a newer apartment complex across town. Modern, bright, with a pool and a gym I never thought I'd have access to. Carrying boxes into that space felt like walking into a life I'd built with my own two hands. Sometimes late at night on the balcony, I'd sip tea and look out over the city. I'd think about how Vincent used to call me settled unambitious, and yet here I was, rising slowly but surely. But rebuilding isn't just about work or walls, it's about people. That winter, my sister introduced me to someone. His name was Dylan, a third-grade teacher with soft eyes and a laugh that made you want to lean closer. He's not flashy, my sister teased when she set us up, but he's solid, the good kind of solid. Our first coffee date stretched into hours. He asked me about my job, not with judgment, but with genuine curiosity. He listened, really listened. When I mentioned the consulting I'd started on weekends helping small businesses streamline their supply chains, his face lit up. "That's incredible," he said. "You're basically running two careers at once." It struck me then Vincent had mocked me for the same thing. But Dylan admired it. We began seeing each other more. Simple dates, picnics in the park, quiet dinners where conversation never felt forced. He didn't perform for attention. He didn't broadcast his life online. He was just present. With him, I felt seen, not as a stepping stone, not as content, but as a person. The contrast with Vincent was sharp, sometimes painfully so. Where Vincent's cologne once reeked of nightclub bravado, Dylan smelled faintly of chalk dust and cedar. Where Vincent's eyes always darted to the glow of his phone, Dylan stayed steady, locked on mine. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but it was real, and after everything I'd endured, real felt like a miracle. Still, shadows lingered. Sometimes when Dylan laughed, I'd catch a flicker of memory Vincent's smirk at my birthday, the word dead weight echoing in the room. I'd wonder briefly if I'd ever fully shake that night from my bones. But then Dylan would reach across the table, squeeze my hand, and the present would drown out the past. I was healing, slowly but undeniably. By spring, my consulting side business began to grow faster than I'd planned. Word of mouth spread among small companies, warehouse supervisors who knew other struggling managers, owners desperate to save money. Weekends turned into steady contracts. For the first time, I saw a path that wasn't just survival, it was success. One Saturday morning, I stood in my new apartment kitchen brewing coffee. Dylan leaned against the counter, hair mussed, wearing one of my old t-shirts. He looked at me like I was enough as I was, not as a version of myself I needed to upgrade. And I realized this was what love was supposed to feel like. No humiliation, no mockery, no begging for scraps of respect. Just presence, safety, growth. The ruins of my old life had been burned to ash. But from that ash, something steadier, something stronger was beginning to rise. I was no longer Vincent's anchor. I was my own. And for the first time in years, I felt light. It was a Saturday morning in June, just over a year since my birthday imploded. The sun poured into my new apartment, the kind of golden light that makes everything look softer, almost cinematic. I was in the kitchen making coffee, humming quietly. Dylan was still asleep in the bedroom, sprawled across the sheets, one arm dangling lazily off the side of the bed. For once, life felt still, safe. Then came the knock. At first, I thought it was a package delivery. I padded to the door mug in hand and pulled it open without thinking. And there he was, Vincent. For a second, I didn't recognize him. His hair hung limp, greasy, pulled back in a half-hearted ponytail. His Target uniform shirt was wrinkled, the red fading. His face, once so full of smug energy, looked puffy, exhausted. His eyes carried dark hollows, and his shoulders sagged, as though the weight of the world had finally crashed down. "Hazel," he said, his voice cracking on my name. "Please, just hear me out." I blinked at him, the steam from my coffee swirling between us. It was surreal, like a ghost had found its way back to my door. "What do you need?" I asked, my voice calm, almost detached. "I need us back." His words tumbled out, rushed and desperate. "I made a huge mistake. Chloe was nothing. You were everything. I see that now." His hands trembled as he spoke. "I'll delete TikTok. I'll support your business. Whatever you want. Just give me another chance." Behind me, I heard the soft creak of the bedroom door. Dylan's voice warm and groggy. "Babe, who's at the door?" Vincent's head jerked up, eyes narrowing. His face crumpled when Dylan appeared barefoot and wearing one of my shirts, rubbing sleep from his eyes. The silence that followed was brutal. Vincent's lips parted, but no words came out. His gaze flicked between us, realization dawning. "Hazel," his voice rose, higher, breaking. "We had plans. We were supposed to build a life together. You can't just replace me." I felt my pulse steady. For so long I had imagined this moment, wondered if I'd scream at him, or collapse in tears, or finally get the closure I'd craved. But standing there looking at him unravel, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing, just emptiness, where love used to live. "Ma'am," I said quietly. Formal, almost cold. "I need you to leave now." He stared at me, stunned, like the word ma'am had slapped him harder than any insult could. Dylan stepped closer, protective but calm. "Do you want me to call building security?" "Please," I said softly, my eyes never leaving Vincent's. "Wait!" Vincent's voice cracked higher. Desperation spilling out. "Please, Hazel. I lost everything. I'm back at my parents' place. No one will hire me with this record. Nursing programs won't touch me. I work retail now. You have to understand I need you. You're the only one who ever believed in me." His shoulders shook as tears filled his eyes. For a brief second, I almost pitied him. Almost. But then I remembered the night he called me dead weight, the way he had wrapped his arm around Chloe and walked out of my birthday party like I was nothing. And suddenly pity evaporated. "Security will be here in a few minutes," I said, calmly stepping back. "You should go." His eyes darted wildly, searching my face for any sign of softness. When he found none, his chest collapsed inward. He stood there for another moment, shoulders trembling, then turned slowly and shuffled down the hall. Through the peephole, I watched him pause, sag against the wall, and finally disappear around the corner. When I closed the door, Dylan slipped an arm around my waist. "Who was that?" he asked gently. I thought for a moment, then answered honestly, "Just someone I used to know." And I realized for the first time that it was completely true. When the door shut behind Vincent that morning, it felt like the last page of a book I'd been too afraid to close. For weeks afterward, I kept replaying the scene in my head, his sagging shoulders, the way he begged the tears in his eyes. But no matter how many times the memory looped, the strangest part remained the same. I had felt nothing. Not rage, not heartbreak, just emptiness. And in that emptiness, I found peace. Life carried on, but brighter. Dylan and I grew closer with each passing month. He wasn't the type to grandstand or broadcast, but in the quiet ways he showed up for me. He left handwritten notes tucked in my bag. "You've got this." He asked about my consulting projects and celebrated every new contract as if it were his own. He even sat beside me one evening, helping me brainstorm logistics solutions despite not fully understanding supply chains. "See," he said, scribbling arrows on my whiteboard. "If third graders can master fractions, we can figure out inventory flow." I laughed so hard I cried. And in that moment, I knew I had traded cruelty for kindness, and it was the best bargain I'd ever made. By fall, Dylan and I put down roots. We bought a small house together, nothing extravagant, but ours. The walls smelled faintly of fresh paint, and the backyard held just enough space for a garden. Standing in that empty living room, boxes scattered, I whispered, "Home." Dylan wrapped his arms around me and kissed the top of my head. Our home. My consulting business flourished too. What began as weekend side work grew into something real contracts, steady enough that I started planning to leave the warehouse and go full time. For years, I'd carried someone else's dream. Now I was finally carrying my own. Sometimes late at night, I'd think back to that birthday party, to Vincent's words, "You're dead weight. You're holding me back." And every time I realized the truth, the only weight dragging us down had been him. He had mocked me for working a mediocre job, yet that job had built my stability. He had ridiculed me for settling, yet he was the one who settled for shortcuts, lies, and a life that crumbled. The irony was almost poetic. I never saw Vincent again. Not in person, at least. Occasionally, whispers reached me, rumors from old classmates or mutual acquaintances. Retail jobs that didn't last. Failed attempts to get back into nursing. Still living with his parents. Each story carried a shadow of the man who once strutted into my birthday party so sure he was upgrading. But I didn't follow those whispers anymore. They were just background noise to a song I no longer listened to. The real music was here in quiet mornings with Dylan in late nights, typing proposals for new clients in the laughter that filled the home we were building together. One evening, curled on the couch with Dylan's arm draped around me, I thought about what I would say to anyone facing the kind of betrayal I endured. And here's what I would tell them. Sometimes the best response to cruelty isn't revenge or anger. It isn't waiting for karma to strike or trying to prove your worth. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away, to let the trash take itself out while you focus on building something better. Because the truth is, love isn't supposed to feel like humiliation. It isn't supposed to leave you questioning your value. Love, real love, is steady, respectful, supportive. The person who once mocked me as dead weight is now a ghost I barely recognize. And me, I'm not the same woman who sat frozen on that couch a year ago. I am lighter, stronger, whole. And as I write this from the living room of the house, Dylan and I just bought planning a wedding, planning a future. I finally understand moving beyond isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about proving to yourself that you were never the problem. The problem was them, and the solution